Well, good Saturday morning, guys. Just a little while ago, I got off the phone with Ron, Wally's Place 66, and he called. He saw the video I posted a couple of days ago, showing the new model ring knife, the one with the ivory micarta handle, and he liked that style. And what he wants to do is he wants me to make a knife, and he's going to give it to his brother Andy. And Ron, that's a really nice thing you're doing. It's a great gift. And so we talked about some choices, because I offer knives in different steels with different handles. So he wants me to make this out of 01 steel, and then he wants me to blue the steel. And for the handle, we talked about all the different variations and color combos and stuff like that, and I referred him back to a video where I made one of these ring knives of the original style for a fellow named Jeremy. And Jeremy chose this green canvas micarta with the orange G10 liner, and it finished up really nicely, especially with the blued 01 steel. And then I used carbon fiber pins on his knife, and that's what I'm going to be using for this one. So I ought to make a nice looking knife. So we're going to get started, and since Ron's brother does watch YouTube, we're going to be making him a little short video series. I'll try to keep it to the point and not get as wordy as I usually do on some of my longer videos, but we're just going to cover all the steps and just give him something to watch so he can see how his knife came to be. So first step is I've got this piece of 01 precision ground flat stock. It's 1/8 inch thick, 1 1/4 inches wide, and I've got some bluing on it already, and I've got a scribe mark on it to the approximate length. So we're going to go over to the bandsaw and get this cut out, and then we'll bring it back over here and clamp the pattern on, get the profile and the holes all transferred. Then we're going to go over to the mill, and the first thing we do on these ring knives is make this large hole and get that out of the way. Okay, we had the steel cut out now to the rough size. Just going to get everything lined up down here and just make sure we're good on our ends. Alright, so now I'm going to clamp this off tightly. I'm going to carry this over, and I'm going to lock this in my vise. And I'm going to take this scribe and go around and get a good heavy scratch and get the outline on this steel. Then we're going to be transferring the holes. Alright, we've got our profile transferred and our holes, and these are going to be for the carbon fiber pins. Now, the carbon fiber rod that I use for my pin stock, it's metric, but it mics out to right at 130 thousandths. And we want epoxy to be able to flow around these. So we're going to go through the blank and the handle material with the number 29 bit. And that's going to give us a few thousandths around to let that epoxy get around and get a good grip on everything. But we're not going to be doing those until we get the blade profiled. The first hole we're going to contend with is this big finger hole, and it's going to be 15/16 on this model knife. So I'm going to be moving over to the mill while we still have nice parallel sides to deal with to clamp up in the vise. We'll be taking this one first, and then we'll drill these over on the drill press. But we'll see you over at the milling machine. I've got the work here in the vise, set it on some parallels, and then got it snug. And I got my parallels out of there and then really torqued the vise up tight so I won't strike my parallels. So I'm going to locate this. I've got this eyeball pretty close, but I'm going to go ahead and locate the center punch mark with a wiggler. There we go. So I'm just checking in both directions. So I'm going to get my wiggler out of the way. And then what I have done in previous videos in drilling this large hole is I have tried, oh gosh, I've tried everything. I have tried, I have some silver and Deming bits. I have tried just going progressively bigger and bigger and bigger up to the old size hole of 1 inch. And I decided to change the pattern to 15/16, which I feel like is big enough for just about anybody's finger. My thumb will fit through a 15/16 hole. I had tried these Christmas tree bits. I've tried drilling it to about 5/8 and then boring up to my final size. And that worked out pretty well. What I'm going for is a nice clean hole with a good smooth finish on the inside. And the boring head gave that to me. But it was very time consuming, and if you're just drilling a hole, you want to try to get that done as quickly as possible. So what I have decided to try this time is a carbide tipped hole saw. And it's a pretty sturdy looking tool, and I can chuck this right up in the drill. I don't have to do a tool change or anything like that, and if this works, I'm going to love it because I just want a one-step tool. Alright, get some cutting oil on my brush. And here we go. Not feeling any big resistance. Just gonna let that big long chip do what it wants. These hole saws will cut up to about a 1/4 inch thick. They have a little stop collar on them to keep you from plunging through. If you're using a hand drill, I really can't see using these with a hand drill because I don't think a hand drill is going to go slow enough and be controllable enough. There we go. Alright, so we just went through, so now I'm going to disengage my fine feed so I can come up out of there. And this ejection spring, yeah, it did a pretty good job. It just knocked that little slug out of there. Pretty neat. Alright, get those chips out of there. Now we're essentially done, so I'm going to pop this out of the vise. Let's see what kind of finish we got in the inside of the hole. If this works, then it takes a 45-minute job that I used to do these with and knocks it down to as long as you saw me do this in real time. So let's see if I can get that in focus for you. That's not a bad finish on the inside of that hole. Now I do have a hard impregnated rubber polishing bob that I use on the inside of these when I get to final finish on my Dremel. That'll take that up to as fine a polish as I want, all the way up to a mirror polish. So yeah, we're going to see how long these hold up and what kind of longevity I get. And I think if I treat them right, run them at the proper speed with plenty of cutting oil, I think they're going to last just about as long as any other carbide tool that you use in the shop. So next step, it's going to be drilling these holes, and we'll see you at the drill press for that. And now we're just countersinking these holes, which is real important before heat treatment. Alright, now we're going to go into the other shop and contend with this burr on this big hole. Then we're going to see you back over at the bench. Alright, now we're ready to profile the blade, but the importance of countersinking and chamfering all these sharp corners. When you have a sharp corner that is captive in the steel, in other words, if it's inside versus a sharp corner on the outside of a piece of steel, when you take this from hardening temperature rapidly down to the quenching temperature, if a corner is captive inside the steel, it's known as a stress riser, and a crack can form. It can form. 01 is pretty forgiving steel, but it's not 100% forgiving. So you always countersink your holes to some extent, which allows that stress to not concentrate in one point and form a crack. So next step is going to be over at the bandsaw. We're going to get all this extra steel cut out of the way. Then we'll be over at the grinder profiling this, and then we'll surface grind it a little bit before we lay out our grinds and start grinding our bevels. So I'm going to get this much uploaded onto YouTube, and when we come back, we'll be sawing this out and then getting ready to grind it.